So today I'm going to be making a, a video, like maybe a tutorial or a run through of how to use Nobox in a React application. To do that, I'm going to follow the guide on the Nobox um, documentation page. Since I've already made previous videos about how to use Nobox, I'm just going to skip this part and then we'll go straight to the installation part and then the integration. But to make this easier, there is Nobox React example that already has all this being done in it. So we're going to follow that, and yeah. So let's get right to it. So let's check the Nobox React example out. It's right here, and we're going to clone it. So let's create a directory and name it test run, and then we cd into it. I mostly do this just to separate whatever I'm doing from every other file on on my computer system. So let's git clone Nobox React example. So since we have that, let's cd into it, Nobox React example, and then let's view that on VS Code. So here we are on VS Code, and we have the integration already. So I'm just going to walk you through the integration process. Um, yeah. So before we do that, I think it's better for us to install the clone repo so everything works just the way we want it to. Cool. Now that that is done, let me see. I'm thinking I should first of all run. Okay. Let's leave that aside. So let's go back here. So it goes this way that the first step is you have to. Sorry about the sound. You have to go to nobox.cloud or your local installation of Nobox console, e.g. localhost 3000. It's mostly 8000 anyways. And then you go there to copy your token. But in this tutorial, we're going to be making use of the online playground. So we're going to be visiting nobox.cloud, which is running here. We'll click login, register, and then it's loading. Then we're here now. Then we copy this token as we were instructed in the documentation. And then we move to the next step. We created a folder named it Nobox in our project. So if you come in here, that has already been created. Then the next step is you create a file called config.ts in the Nobox folder that has been created here. And then it says you add the code here. So let's copy this code and come in. So we just remove the code that is there before and just act like we're doing it fresh. So copy the code there. As you can see, it already has the endpoint for this is the endpoint you have to always use if you're using the online playground. But if you're using the local installation, you just want to put something like localhost 8000 here, and by default the local installation does not use SSL, so to always be HTTP, unless maybe you know you're putting on the server online that you had SSL to. So let's remove this anyways and go back to what we had before because we're using the online playground. So here we pick a name. I decided to pick. No, should I pick this date? No, let's just say test. That's terrible. Well, let's just pick December. Just reluctant using. Okay, let's pick December 30, 2023. And let's go back here and copy our token again. And then put it right here. We have the token, and then you can leave the rest alone. I don't want to go into too much explanation. I'm pretty sure like the docs have explanation on on what this means and on what this means. But as time goes on, you would have a better understanding of that. So And the reason why I'm not explaining too deeply is because this is just supposed to be like a tutorial that helps you to get, you know, running as quickly as possible. So yeah, we've replaced the project name with our desired project name. We've replaced the token with the token we copied, and then we created a folder. We need the next step is for us to create a folder called record structures inside the Nobox folder. So this is the Nobox folder. That has been created already, and then it says we should then create a file called user.ts. Yeah, that's just an example. Could be any other name, and then we copied the following code into the user.ts file. Copy the following code. So we already have a user.ts file if you look in here, but still, yeah, even if you copy the code here, it's still going to be exactly the same. So let's remove it and copy again, still the same. So just for the sake of, making things easier for us to understand, I'll go through this code a bit. So this is just like a structure for each, let me call it a table, but you know, Noboxers works in a NoSQL way, it's NoSQL at least in the way you interact with the Nobox engine itself, the Nobox core. So this structure is kind of like very Mongoose like if you ever have experience with using MongoDB. So this means that you have when you're storing users, the user we have an email, the user we have a password, the user we have first name, the user we have age. I advise you to go through the Nobox docs to understand this better. But another thing what you've mentioned is Nobox is kind of like very metadata. I wouldn't say metadata driven, but I really believe in metadata. So every structure has a description, even every field has a description and all. And just for the mention, if you wanted to not had all this, you know, verbose metadata, you can just do something like age and just put number in front and it will still work, right? So let's go back to what it is. I think this is wrong. It's supposed to be users age. So, and also this interface is very important. As you can see, it's being used in here, right? And it's just a list of the fields. As you can see, there's email, there's password, there's first name, there's email, there's password, there's first name, there's age, there's age. If you try to add an extra, you know, like gender, and you put string, it's going to not allow you to do that because gender is not present in user. But if we had it, it's going to work just the way we want. You feel me? Yeah. So let's remove it and move on. So back to the documentation. After we've done that, we need to now we're showing like the project structure itself should look something like this. This was just taken directly from the React Nobox example that we're using. So as you can see, we have the record structures user, and just to mention, there are other field structures or you know categorization of data. You can call it structures, you can call it collections, you can call it, but I wouldn't say you call it table because it's technically not a table. So if you look at here, there are other fields. There's cars. I added all these extra, as a field. No, I added. We have all the structures. I added all these extra structures because I wanted to be able to test other. Wanted to be able to test as many. Wanted to test Nobox with as many structures as possible. Enough for us to be able to know how it works. So that was why I added these extra structures. So I think that's the end of the documentation. So next step is how to use Nobox. So this is where I probably leave this and just go into the code directly because I mean it's almost going to be the same. But before I do that, let's just go straight to example 3 because it practically just explains what we have initially. So This is talking about inserting data in React, but I think this is the most important part. So let's go into the code itself. I think that's a better place to start. So now, if we run the code using yarn dev, okay, so and we click add user, I guess there's an error somewhere. Don't worry, it's probably going to be a simple error. Oh, yeah, there's a small issue. There's a type error somewhere. Let's go to the pages, go to the index. Yeah, move this. So we do this then, and then we click add user again. And then we have this. So now, Nobox is not, the playground is not that slow. And the reason why it appeared that slow is because when you click add user, it actually makes a lot of requests. And I'll show you that now. So now this is the index page where this button add user is present and where this card is present. So when you click add user, sample user, it goes back here and then it inserts a user. So this is where the real learning is. So if you to add a user, you just import the user model from the record structure we added here. We import this right back into the space, and then we can easily insert users, right? If you try to add a user, a field that is not there, say if you will, it's going to flag. No, it's going to give you squiggly lines. That's kind of like a TypeScript thing. But at the same time, even if you escape the TypeScript, validation and type checking, Nubox still has is built into it to flag you with a bad request response if you're inserting a field that it doesn't recognize. So let's go back to what we have. So as you can see, we can insert a model, we can update the models, we can update one by ID. That means after creating this user, you now want to update this user as 8 to 18 years old, and you use the ID, and then you can also find the user by a set of fields, and then you can search a user. But this search is not very, you know, it works, but it's not very, how would I put it? It's not full text. It's just regex. So, I mean, in future we're coming up with better search. But right now, we're just fresh out and we've not really had much demand on that. Like, so it's actually being pushed by what people are actually asking for first. But this is like a regex kind of stuff. And I'll explain what it does. Is like you want to search for a particular text, but you also want to know, you want to, how would I say this? You want to specify rather the fields that should be tested. So that's when you had, okay, test, search for Akin on the fields, first name and email. So that's what happens here. Then we have a field called, we have another thing called set keys. Now, this is where I get to explain the two types of structures you can have on Nubox. You can have a row schema. So let's do that on the config. You can have a row schema. You can have a key group schema. So the row schema behaves like, you know, any other database where you just do row by row. You insert new users and they keep piling up. But the key group schema is like Redis where they don't pile up. You just let me give you an example of that. So the app details here is storing the details of this application. So you don't want to pile up the app details. You just the name of the app is always going to be the same. It's not going to be two. The language is going to be the same. The platform is going to be the same. Sorry, I'm using car here. Let me change this to language. Ooh, yeah, can change it to platform. So, um, so when you want to do something like this, and you're not trying to like pile it up, you use what we call a key group schema. So this key group schema cannot help you store many app details. It can only help you store one app details. And anytime you had a name, it's going to overwrite the last name you have. It's not going to create a new data that has a new name. If you want to understand this better, yeah, that's just it. Let me not complicate with further explanation. So that's what we have here. So the methods we have here is you can set keys, you can get the keys. Now, if you can see here, we are setting the keys, all of the keys at the same time, but you can also decide to set only one of the keys. Now, you might wonder, why am I doing the command, the field here says add user, right? So why am I adding a lot of operations in between? It's because I just wanted to test all the possible methods we have in Nobox clients, and so you can see how it works. So that's why I added this. So if you click this again, it will add a new user. When the process of adding a new user, as you can see, to set key values, to get key values, to do a lot of things, just to let you know that it works well. As you can see, none of these things are erroring out. And if you check the console, all the searches you were asking for is coming back just the way you want. You searched for hacking, you got it back. I know. So I guess that sums it all. Um, you know, if you have any other question, you can always hit me up on LinkedIn. Just search me on LinkedIn. That's the only place you can reach me now. Or you can search me on LinkedIn with this name, Jagede Akitene, or you can also search me on Twitter with the same name. And this is my email address. I'm not sure I'm supposed to be showing that, but I don't care. So yeah, thank you so much. Take care.